From the Cyber Hub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the Cyber Hub podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Welcome to another Passover Cyber Hub podcast episode. It's a special show. We typically do the news on here every single morning, Monday through Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern live. However, I'm on Passover break this week, so we've pre-recorded a whole bunch of shows for y'all. This is one of them. This one is about changing the cyber paradigm. And if you're wondering what it is, I'm going to have a really hard conversation today. And I hope you're ready for it. I'm not holding back any punches. I'm not taking any hostages in today's show. I'm going right at our problem and addressing it head on. So hope you're ready. Buckle up. Tune in. Here we go. So for these shows, what we've done is we've kind of done some accompanying images and quotes and stuff like that to it. They'll be coming in and out of the podcast as we kind of go along. So if you're watching us on video, you'll see that jump in and out. If you're not, you'll be able to see this at our website at cyberhubpodcast.com. You can go click on this episode, see all of the data we're sharing there. So let's face the truth about cybersecurity today. We need an approach overhaul. Cybercrime is at a $6 trillion. $6 trillion. Just going to give you an idea, right? Because we put this into a chart. So let's bring out the chart. There is our global economy in trillions. And if you take a look, the U.S. economy is at around $28.5 trillion. China at about $19.5 trillion. The EU at $20 trillion. And cybercrime at $6 trillion. So obviously, this number is not sustainable. Japan's at 4.4 trillion. This is unsustainable. The world global GDP is $113 trillion. Cybercrime makes 5.3% of that. That is not a formula that will work over time. Eventually, insurance companies will cave. That cost will be transferred to consumers to cover for it. And some banks and financial institutions will no longer cover for it. So let's talk about how we got into this mess to begin with. Okay. So we're investing heavily in cybersecurity. In 2021, that number was $150 billion. It's $1 trillion cumulative between 2017 and 2021. $13 billion is the budget for CISA and NSA just this year under President Trump. The 2024 IBM cost of a data breach report is showing U.S. firms losing $9.4 million per breach. Downtime and ransom hits hard. The IMF's 2024 report flags systemic risks like banks facing deposit runs post-attacks. Trust is low. CISA's had their own hiccups. Started with Chris Krebs steering the debate in 2020, tweeting the election was the most secure ever, leading to a clash with President Trump, having him get fired by a tweet. Jen Easterly came in, replacing him under President Joe Biden. She focused and did a lot of good things there. However, she did focus on misinformation and disinformation, erased concerns about overreach. And then people are saying that, and some saying that CISA was staying from its core mission. But let's be fair to Jen. Jen also drove wins and big wins, like expanding the Joint Cyber Defense Collaborative. She united tech giants and government to share threat intel. So, and with nations like Russia and China enabling the $6 trillion scourge, we need a smarter fight, which Jen was kind of leading. And unfortunately, she fell into some White House politics, which kind of did that. And then the Twitter files, obviously, and kind of CISA's involvement in trying to limit speech through social media also took an impact. However, to be fair, that wasn't Jen, that was Chris Krebs. So we'll leave it there. Part of it was Jen, by the way, the post-COVID stuff. But nonetheless, there's that there. So we kind of get into this whole idea of what's next there. And so when we get to what's next there, there's some really impactful voices talking about this. Mike Rogers, former House Intel chair and currently one of the managing operators over at Team 8, told CNN, we're losing the cyber war because we're not aggressive enough with nations like China and Russia. A point he echoed also just this year. Mark Weatherford, an ex-DHS and cyber chief, told the cybersecurity role that, we're not setting the right priorities about the White House. This was back in 2020. Just recently, he tweeted, "We're still chasing our tails with outdated playbooks." Suzanne Spalding, an ex-DHS secretary under Obama, said in the 2020 Washington Post piece that success came despite, not because of White House leadership. In 2024, she told the Atlantic Council, "We're investing billions, but the lack of coordination keeps us reactive." CISA faced criticism as well at the time. Krebs's election comments and Easterly's info battles sparked some pushback that we're now seeing heavily impact CISA and its future. Easterly also boosted public-private partnerships like the JCDC, but rogue nations still find gaps. Moreover, if you look at something Spalding said in her Atlantic report is billions spent, but we're still reactive. We're not proactive. So what gives here, right? So here's the plan. And I've kind of put together a strategy. You may or may not like it. You may agree or disagree with it. But what the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. The fact is, we're all leveraging 20 to 30-year-old technology that's written based on bad code. Revamping this is no small feature. You're talking about rebuilding it. It's kind of very similar to trying to rebuild old coal power plants. If they're working and they're running, keep them running. Trying to build a new power plant in, at least I don't know if today because of President Trump's priorities around power. But 10 years ago, try to build a power plant. It would take you 10 years just to get permissions to build it. And even then, it wouldn't be worthwhile. The cost to benefit ratio just wouldn't add up. So we're in this insanity loop. I've put together something. You may like it, you may not. You may say it's too aggressive. That's your call. It's your prerogative. I welcome debate. I don't think I'm right. I'm proposing an idea. I say we should start targeting countries fueling the $6 trillion crisis. Countries like Russia, China, North Korea. I think the NSA should lead cyber operations to disrupt their infrastructure, targeting it carefully with strategic types of attacks to avoid escalation and add economic leverage, something this president seems to be very fond of. Tariff their key exports, sanctions their officials, limit educational and visitor visas to raise the cost of inaction. CSIS notes that China's Huawei got $75 billion in 2023 state funds. Trade measures can pinch that, make enabling cybercrime a losing bet. At home, tighten up the screws. Pass legislation with tougher penalties for U.S. people laundering cyber funds, say 10 to 15 years for ransomware mules. Empower banks to freeze suspicious accounts swiftly with clear rules to protect the innocent. Build bridges with crypto partners like Coinbase to trace illicit flows using privacy-enhancing technologies, as the 2023 DOJ cybercrime report suggested, to share data safely. Globally, form coalitions with like-minded, the US, UK, Japan. Hunt gangs like Arrival and Lazarus, align laws, share intel, act fast. Trump has a fast diplomacy, short fuse, very motivated, boosts CISA's budget to $5 billion, not $3 billion. Give them more. Build on Jen Easterly's good. Don't just focus on the bad, the JCDC model. It's a fight we can shape, not just endure. And then we got to look at the balanced view. We got to look at both sides of this. Eventually, right, there's more to this. One other thing I want to add to what we can do. Set cybersecurity minimum standards into regulation. And I'm not saying, because right now all we're regulating is data breach notification. That's a flawed idea. We're regulating the victims of the crime. And then we're not saying you got to have a lock on your door. So we're saying you got to report to me when your house gets broken into, but I'm not going to hold you responsible if your door's unlocked. Well, how about we set a standard? Take the CIS top 20. Make that a universal cybersecurity standard for the 16 major critical infrastructure verticals in our nation. Say you've got to comply with it. Every year, you've got to submit to CISA your CIS 20 baseline, your improvements, your key risks, etc. Set that as a standard. And if you set that as a standard, you'll see cybersecurity evolve at a much, much faster pace. But even regulators aren't getting it. So let's get to both sides of the panel, the plan of mine, right? So I'm honest with myself. For those who don't know, I'm honest with myself. The plan has potential, but it's not simple. we all know that targeting cyber operations could lead to cyber warfare. The IMF 2024 report show they'll hit back. How much do I believe the International Monetary Fund? About as much as I believe someone selling me that bridge in Brooklyn. But tariffs and visa limits could pressure foes and could be effective, specifically meaning if you're a country that supports cybercrime and you're tagged by the State Department as a cybercrime host nation, then no student visas to your people at all. Make the pressure internal by their own population against the government policies. Flip the script. We're not doing that. I think we should be responsible with sanctions because oftentimes threat actors find a way to slip through the cracks. So banks should have tougher authority. But we can go back to something Rihanna Pfefferkorn said back in 2020 in the Washington Post. We have to go in the right direction despite some of the leadership challenges we've had. CISA's had missteps, yes, but it still has a ton of potential if led effectively. The withholding of Sean Planke's nomination is a wrong step in empowering CISA when just a moment ago people were screaming that we're risking our country's cybersecurity posture by firing the NSA director and then the layoffs. So you can't on one end cry wolf and then on the other end hold up the appointment of a director who's trying to rebuild an agency that needs rebuilding, that has bipartisan support. It just needs to focus on its core mission. And so here's where I stand on this issue. Cybercrime is $6 trillion. It's unsustainable. It reaches 10 trillion, 12 trillion. If it doubles in the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see countries and industries and businesses go bankrupt. Right now, we're not seeing it because we're not feeling it, but it's happening. It's not happening in Wall Street, but it's happening on Main Street. Companies are losing out to cybercrime. They're getting hit with cyber attacks. They're losing their business. They can't make payroll. They lose employees. They lose customer trust. The cost of it isn't there. They don't have the right insurance. All of those things are going to impact the bottom line of our basic societal fabric through cyber warfare and cyber crime. And so as the same fight that we're taking here has to be more rounded. And what I mean by that specifically, folks, is the following. What we have to do is flip the script. The White House needs to lead the way. The White House should say, China, for every cyber attack you do, we're revoking 1,000 student visas we give Chinese. Why give them student visas when we already know they're coming here to do espionage? And China passed a law that says that you have to report this kind of stuff to the Chinese Communist Party. Or eliminate all of their student visas and isolate China completely. And then outlaw any cooperation of research with any university that has Chinese students in it. Again, these types of foreign policy moves can directly impact the bottom line of cyber warfare. They can reduce that risk significantly. You can do the same with Iran. You could do the same with Russia. You could do the same with some countries like India and Pakistan, where you have these fraud call centers operating there. Start the limit. But instead, we're allowing this to kind of bleed out. And eventually, it's a death by 1,000 cuts. And you bleed out and you can't recover from it. So if our concern is economy, then the $6 trillion cybercrime number should be a great concern for us. And if that's the concern, then we should develop a brand new playbook for it. And that playbook should encompass cyber warfare led by the NSA, CIA, Cyber Command, and then CISA on the defensive front, empowered to do the work with the private sector and critical infrastructure. On the foreign policy side, Senator Rubio, backed by the White House, should start hitting host nations of cybercrime with significant sanctions and limits, as well as limiting their presence in our country altogether. Use diplomacy as a tool. Sanction them if you need to. Again, cyber operations, you can do that as well. Limit educational visa and educational relationships. ban universities from collaborating on research with universities in China, with universities in Iran, if those still and they don't really happen. China is the only place where we still have universities collaborating with China, because with Russia, because of the war with the Ukraine, that doesn't happen anymore. Iran's obviously a nation state that's an enemy to the United States. Every Friday they stand and say death to America, the big Satan. So, like, if the university is doing that there, then by all means, horrible. But all in all, that has to be our approach. And if we agree with this approach and we understand it's a shared fight, not only in cybersecurity, but across foreign affairs, education, and so much more, we might have a chance to reduce that number and put a significant dent. And not $1 billion dent in a $6 trillion problem, but a $3 trillion dent in a $6 trillion problem. Those are my thoughts. I'd love to get your feedback on this. Please let me know. Go to cyberhubpodcast.com. You can click, watch this episode, leave a comment there in the chat. Happy to have the discussion, get your best ideas. You want to hammer me on my own? Do that as well. That's okay. I can handle it. Like I said, my ideas aren't perfect, but it's different from what we're doing now. And I think we should do something different. That's it for me here. I hope you're enjoying and having a great time being a cybersecurity practitioner. I hope these episodes helped you a lot. Feedback is critical. Until tomorrow, we'll be back talking about tariffs, geopolitics, and cybersecurity in our final episode of the week. Until then, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.